Hey everyone, we're going to do the second video here. I just did the 1911 and now I'm going to go to the Colt Single Action Army. And I probably only put about 50 rounds through this. 45 long Colt can get pretty expensive, and this is another gun that I don't shoot all too often, although I absolutely love shooting it. It's one of the best guns to shoot, honestly. Obviously, if you felt a Colt Single Action Army, it fits perfectly well in the hand, and pulling the hammer back just takes you back. This has been cleared before, but again, I'll just show everybody here. I don't even know if you can see that in the video, but you'd obviously be able to see brass if there was anything in it. So there's nothing in this one. So shooting this is obviously a lot of fun. You have the classic Colt clicks. And so I'm going to do a little video on cleaning this, taking it down. This is very simple. It's like any other single action Colt. If you have a Ruger, it's a little bit different. I have a Ruger sitting right over here that I'll clean later. I may or may not put that on video. With the Ruger, all you have to do is empty or open the side gate, which frees up the cylinder. On a Colt, that doesn't happen, obviously. You have to put it on half cock, 2 clicks, to free up the cylinder. So for this one, Takedown, it's 2 clicks. And then there's a pin here that you can depress. It's spring loaded. And what you'll do is depress it and slide the cylinder retention pin right out. And there's the retention pin. I'll put that aside. And then all you do is lift the cylinder right out. And now that's basic field stripping. Obviously, if I wanted to clean all the internals, which I hardly ever do, it doesn't really get too dirty inside here, inside the grip. You'd have to take apart the screws, take off the grips and things like that. So right now this is basically field stripped. There's a Colt Single Action Army field stripped. What I'll do, similar to the 1911, since this is 45 long Colt, I'm going to commit some heresy here. I'm sure some people would freak out. I'm using a 410 brass cleaning brush, and I'm going to dip it again in the Hoppy solvent first to get it started on the barrel and get some of the nastiness out of the barrel. This, you have to go in against the rifling because it's impossible to get in on a revolver on the other side unless you use a bore snake or something, which I may pick up and try out at some point. So I'm going to run this through a few times. This was firing Winchester cowboy action loads, whatever they call it, and they're all pure lead. They're not plated or anything, so there's going to be quite a bit of lead inside this barrel. So I want to make sure I get in there and loosen up as much as I can with the solvent and with the brush, and then I'm going to let it sit. So done that, I'm going to let that sit for a minute and work its magic. And I'm going to do the same thing with the cylinders. I'm going to use solvent. And I don't think this is the kind of stuff you really want to get too much on your finish. I mean, it's not really going to hurt too bad, but I wouldn't leave it on there for an extended period of time. And usually inside the cylinders, you really only get fouling right at the end, right where the bullet at the end of the case. So I just want to make sure you can actually feel it. Here, there's not too much grime, but right there, I can feel a little bit. So I'm just going to go through each one of these, get some solvent in there, and I'll do the same thing with ballistol. Now what I want to do here, and again, since this gun has kind of a unique finish, it's the Colt Royal Blue, I don't want to use my brass brush to get the front of the cylinders here. This is where you get some fouling on the front of the cylinder. So I'm just using, I think this is just like a polymer type brush. It's really soft. And it's got some of the Hoppy solvent on it just when I was pushing through with the brush. So I'm just going to rub that in here and get working on some of the fouling on the end here, on the front of the cylinders. The back, you can see how nasty it is. it's already removing a lot of the grime. The back here isn't really that bad. What I'll do is I'll just go on here. Actually, I can do it right now. Just with a Q-tip, I'll get inside where the cylinder pin rides. You can see, get some fouling, some nastiness in there. It's really not that bad. It's not really particulate. It's really just gunpowder residue. So it really doesn't affect your shooting. Like if you had a particulate in there, like a piece of lead or something, you'd obviously have an issue. But you don't get that inside there. So I'm just gonna wipe along here and get any of the residue off. And where the cylinder hand rotates, make sure there's nothing in there, so you get a nice smooth action. So I'm going to let that sit for a minute, and I'm just going to wipe down the cylinder pin here just to make sure there's nothing on it. And now what I'll do is I'll run let's see, I'm going to do 3 patches right now. Disconnect this end. I'm going to run 3 patches down through here and see what we have. This gets a little tricky with single actions. If you have something in your garage or in an office that can hold on to the gun while you do this, obviously it's a lot better. So there's some of the fouling, and again, this is only with maybe, I don't know, 40 shots, 50 shots. You can already tell how badly it gets in the barrel there. So what I'll do now is rotate these and start going through the cylinders here. Usually do it this way. Just wiggle it a little bit, and then right at the end just gently push, and there you can see that's plenty of fouling in that cylinder. So I'm going to rotate another clean one, rotate here, go to the second. There's a whole lot there as well. I'm going to go to some new patches here. Let's see. I think I had 3. So I'm going to go for another 3 here. And hit cylinder number 3. Right there. That had a lot. Look at that. Again, that's just from, I don't know, 30 to 50 rounds. Here's cylinder 4. A lot of people don't clean their cylinders, so here's just an example of why you should definitely clean your cylinders after you shoot. It's just a good idea. This will be number 5. That had a lot as well. I'm going to take the middle patch here. Clean one for the 6th. There's 6. Just take a look through the light. That's pretty good. So, now I could go through with some more patches, but that's pretty good. I just looked at it through the light and it's pretty clean. I'm just going to wipe off the face here because I had solvent on the end, on the face of the cylinder. So I want to kind of get that off and get any of the residue off the front of the cylinder. You're always going to have, obviously after you fire a revolver, you're going to have the cylinder burns. So you can see there, you know, the cylinder's not perfectly blue. Right where you get the round being fired, you're going to get the normal cylinder wear. It's actually not even wear, it's just marking. You can decrease that a bit, and you want to make sure that there's no lead. A lot of times lead will gather. But as long as you clean them kind of like this, or however you like to clean them, you won't get any lead here. You'll just get the telltale signs that the revolver's been fired. And I don't think there's a way to get that out necessarily. I think it would take a lot. You also want to get here on the fluting. There's usually residue there, and I'm just wiping this down for now. I'm going to hit this with Ballistol, let it soak for a minute, run some more patches through the inside, and then clean it with the microfiber towel. So that's that. Let me run some patches through the inside here. Actually, I think what I'm going to do now is hit it with ballistol. I think that's what I'll do. Revolvers are pretty easy to clean. There aren't too many nooks and crannies in here. So I've got ballistol working on the inside of the cylinder. I'm going to spray it down here. And I'm going to set it on its side, let it soak. And I'm going to run some more patches through there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to take some Q-tips here. And I'm going to go on the inside. It's probably hard for you to see in this light. I'm going to go inside the frame and just get any of the residue from the edges and the face here and in where the cylinder stop latch is. Don't want anything in there. There are a couple nooks and crannies, but honestly, to me, a revolver, a single action, is a lot easier to clean than modern semi-autos. There's always some kind of an area that's very difficult to get to, whereas on a revolver it's not that difficult. And again, this is just preliminary, getting some of the stuff out while I can, while I get it ready to hit it with ballistol to let it get the rest of it, get the rest of the residue. What I'll do is I'll go to full cock. When you go to full cock, the rest of the cylinder hand here will come up so you can hit it. I don't know if you can see it on the tape. It's probably very difficult. The lighting's not perfect. See the cylinder hand that rotates the cylinders right there. On half cock, it's not fully showing. On full cock, there you go, you can see the whole thing. So I like to get in there and get any residue I can, and up around the firing pin area and the top of the frame where you get a lot of junk, right around the barrel. Get a whole bunch of junk in there. Try to get out as much as I can before I run ballistol over it to get the rest. And also go through the cylinder pin hole just to make sure there's nothing in there. Alright, let me hit this with some ballistol as well. I don't want too much in the mechanism, but I want it to loosen up everything there. And I'm also going to go down the barrel a bit and let it go through the barrel and work its magic. And let it sit there and soak for a minute. And while that happens, I'm going to go back to the cylinder. I'm going to run 3 patches through it. And there's going to be more grime, but hopefully it won't be too bad. It's not too bad. It's lighter than before. Before it was really dark. But again, that ballistol, even after the hoppy solvent has gone through, the ballistol still gets some more. Let's flip this around. Get a clean side. Let's see, that's cylinder number 2, so this is number 3. That's number 3. I think that's clean. This will be number 4. So you still are getting some residue, and it's really just residue. I mean, there's no more lead fouling in there, so gunpowder residue isn't as bad as leaving some lead, which I don't want to do. I don't want to leave lead in there. And obviously, if you're working with black powder, you have to be even more meticulous with cleaning, because black powder is highly corrosive. This was all smokeless ammo, which is still not the least corrosive thing on the planet, but it's really not going to do too much as long as you clean pretty well after you shoot. I'm just going through them one more time. rotating the cloth for the patches to get some clean ones, clean sides. They look dirty, but they're the clean side. And that should do it. Now what I'm going to do is wipe it down with my cloth here. And again, after I'm done with this, I usually hit it one more time with Ballistol and use microfiber and get the cartridge end of the cylinder. Make sure that's clean, looks good. I try to keep my guns as nice looking and protected as possible, especially since some of them here are not exactly cheap, and especially this Colt. Finding an all blued Colt is not the easiest thing in the world. This had to be special ordered, so I try to keep this as clean and protected as possible. Now I'm going to run the patches through here. Ballistol was sprayed down the barrel. I'm running 4 patches this time, so I'm just going to try to get 4 in. I may not be able to. I may have to switch to 3. Let's see. There we go. Got it. That's not too bad here. That's not too much lead. I'm going to switch to 3 and go back down here. And my last patch will be a Ballistol soaked patch. That's pretty clean. Just a little bit of residue on the edges. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm actually going to soak this with Ballistol once and put it down the barrel to get kind of a nice oiled barrel. To tap it again. And I'm not too worried about tapping this because the rod is brass. There we go. That was good. The Ballistol patch got some more residue up. So I'm good with that barrel. Since I blasted this with Ballistol, I'm going to go back over it with a Q-tip, and you're going to see a whole lot more residue and fouling come up. See, it's still running black. That Ballistol just picks up all the residue that you can't really see, and you think your gun's clean or pretty clean, and you end up throwing some Ballistol at it, let it soak for a minute, and you'll get all this stuff coming up, which is really good to see, honestly. That just means I'm getting a lot of the residue that you think is not there, and it's picking it up, which is what I want. I'm going to get around the barrel here. It's still picking up some residue. You'd be surprised how much or how little shooting you have to do to get some of these things pretty dirty. I think a few rounds and it's not that big of a deal, it's not that dirty, I don't need to do much. And honestly, probably on modern guns you don't need to if you're using smokeless powder, but if you want to keep them in mint condition, you should clean them every time you go out, just to make sure. I think I'm pretty good here. I don't mind some of the residue, I just want to get the majority of it up. I think I've done that. So I'm going to wipe it down just with my cloth here, make sure I get any residue that's around the barrel crown. Look at it, make sure there's no residue on the tip of the barrel, and there's nothing. Get around the sight, front blade sight, around the barrel, frame, the hammer. Sometimes you'll get some residue back here where the hammer, firing pin on the hammer comes through. Make sure that's clear. Some residue back here, not much, but sometimes you get some. Alright, I think I'm pretty good with that. So what I'm going to do now, I've got so much ballast on my hands, I don't need to spray down the cylinder pin. I can literally just rub it on my fingertips and get it properly lubed up. Now I'm just going to, it's on half cock again, gates open, slide the cylinder in, the pin here, hopefully you can see this, press down on the cylinder pin, release, and slide it right back in. Once it catches in, you don't have to hold it down. You just slide it in and click. There it is. And now you have put the Colt back together. And it works fine. So what I'll do here, finally, put it on half cock so I can get the hammer. I'm just going to soak it one more time in ballastol. This may look like a lot, I know you're probably freaking out, oh my god, what is he doing? But trust me, if you try ballastol, you will see a difference. I'm going to try to see if it'll stay up here. Usually it will. There we go. I'm just going to let it soak here for a second. Let the oil get into the metal. And then I will wipe it down with my microfiber cloth. And the Colt will be clean and ready to go for the next time. Just going to rotate it here to get some ballastol on the other parts of the cylinder. You get a lot of fouling sometimes up here, and the ballastol takes it all out, so make sure it's on the grips. And I guess ballastol works really well for wood. As you can tell from these grips, it works like magic. Make sure the action is smooth. There's nothing interfering. Since I'm not going to shoot this for a while, I don't mind putting a little more ballastol on this than the 1911. I want to make sure it stays perfectly functioning, or stays functioning perfectly. Action feels good and very smooth. Good. Now I'll just use the microfiber cloth. And I only use microfiber because some of the other cotton cloths you'll get strands of stuff all over your gun, and microfiber doesn't leave anything behind. No strings of cotton or anything. And it usually just picks up all the excess oil and leaves the general oil on the gun. And I guess with ballastol, I mean, you can pretty much soak weapons in ballastol and put them in even plastic and just leave them, and they won't rust or anything. I guess this stuff really does well for rust proofing. Back here. And this is just about done. Get some excess off the grips on the back strap. And I usually wipe it down one more time before I put it back in the safe, so there's no finger oils on it or anything. And there you go. There's the Colt Single Action Army, cleaned, ready to go for next time. Hopefully you enjoyed this and were able to watch the whole thing without falling asleep. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.